Okay. Hi, everybody, and welcome to our TAU-SAIS info session where we present our wonderful collaboration with Johns Hopkins Bologna. And I'm happy to invite Professor Sennett, our dean, to say a few opening sentences, please.
Okay, so a lot of scholars are currently preoccupied with a topic that has been haunting us for a long time, and we haven't figured out a way to nail it down to something more specific. We just engage one of the top research institutes in the world to try and help us out. The topic is well-being. And, we don't quite know how to grapple with this issue, how to improve the well-being of people. It doesn't have to do directly with money. It doesn't have to do directly with other parameters and variables that we know. So we're struggling. We're struggling to figure out what does it have to do with. But I found a practical solution. It's called Bologna. Okay. I went there one day. I was invited. Someone invited me by mistake, I think. I had to spend there 3 or 4 weeks, and they kind of tied me to a building. I couldn't run away. I figured that has improved my well-being very considerably. So I came back to Tel Aviv, and I told Ayelet, let's send whoever can
Clear now.
To Bologna. It's a great city. The Johns Hopkins program, the SAIS program, is a great program. We have with us one of our top stars, Peter Pesov, who actually went through the drill and came back in military uniform. So be careful what you hope for. But the idea is relatively simple. Instead of getting to know just Tel Aviv and our wonderful program, we open up the world for you through the SAIS Bologna program. And so far, so good. We are very, very happy with our collaboration. The students from Bologna who are coming here, they're telling us they're very happy. And we have our students that Peter is one of those students who have completed the program in Bologna. And they are definitely very, very happy with the program and everything transpired there. So after this very short and true, I will just, somebody's making a lot of noise somewhere. Ayelet, could you mute whoever we need to mute, because I don't know who is making the noise. But anyway, after working all of this out, and it wasn't easy, but we'll do anything for the well-being of our students, we discovered Daniela, which is kind of a huge asset in and of itself. So she has been incredibly helpful in a lot of different ways, not just for the institution, helping Tel Aviv University doing as well as we can with Bologna, but also at an individual level, working with professors and students to make sure that they get the best they can get from this program. So I think it's just logical to let Daniela speak for herself. So Daniela, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. First of all, thank you for that warm welcome. I hope that you do come back soon, and we're looking forward to welcoming you in January. And I'm delighted to see so many people joining us online. So I'll just begin by saying this presentation is being recorded, and we will share the PowerPoint afterwards. It is an interactive presentation, but if it's okay with those of you online, maybe we'll leave the majority of the questions towards the end, but as questions come up, feel free to put them in the chat box. I'm going to be speaking for about 20 minutes. I also have a current student and a current alumnus that will be joining us as well. But what I want to do today is talk to you a little bit about this cooperative agreement that we actually have with Tel Aviv University. So a little bit about myself. I am the Director of Admissions and Recruiting for the European campus of Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Studies. I'm actually Zooming you today in Bologna, Italy. And for those of you that don't know where Bologna is, it's actually located in northern Italy. We're about an hour by high-speed train from Milan. We're about 35 minutes from Florence, and there are direct flights from Tel Aviv to Bologna. So I'll just put that in there if you do want to come by and visit us, but also as you think about potentially applying to us as well. So what we're going to do today is have a general discussion about why you should invest in a U.S. graduate program in international relations. I do want to give a little bit of a history lesson. Why would an American program end up in Italy of all places? And I do want to speak to you a little bit about what makes the SAIS education unique. But obviously, we're here today because we have a really unique cooperative degree with Tel Aviv University, in the sense that if you are currently enrolled at Tel Aviv University, if you're accepted into our program, you sort of get upper standing and are fast-tracked to finishing our master's in just 1 year. I think it's also really important to have the student and the alumni perspective, and I'm delighted that we have Peter Pessoff and Daniel Suarez, who will be joining us today to share their experiences. But we also want to talk about you, careers, your future, why this is an investment, and of course, the application process and your questions.
Daniela, excuse me for interrupting. I have to run. I want to say just 3 things. Bologna is one of the most beautiful cities on the face of the earth and the most ancient university the world knows of its existence. 1. 2, Johns Hopkins, as you should know, is one of the best universities in the world, highly ranked always among the top 10. And 3, Daniela always takes unbelievably good care of you. 3 very good reasons to sign up. Thank you, Daniela, for your help. We really, really appreciate it.
No, thank you. Thank you so much for your time. We also really appreciate it, and have a great day.
You too.
Great. So what is a graduate education in international relations? I think if you have to think about the differentiating factors of a degree like SAIS, is the fact that if you were to be a student at SAIS, you would be studying with a combination of theory and practice. What does that mean? It means that many of our academics are career academics. They're experts in their fields. They publish, they're premier scholars. But you also are taking classes for people that have actually worked in the field. So for example, we have people that teach conflict resolution that have worked at UN agencies. We have people that work at environmental consultancies teaching about the environment and sustainability. We have people that have worked in the various financial markets talking about trade. We have people that have worked at the WTO that discuss trade discourses. And these are really, really important as you think about an education. Another big aspect is that in parallel to all that you're learning in the classroom, a big part of what you're going to be doing outside the classroom is taking professional development courses. And I'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later. Although we are an American program, and at our campus in Bologna, we have about 200 students, it's quite an international program. Of course, the language of instruction is English. And for many of our students, they're studying a second language or a third language, but the student body is very diverse. And so you are studying among a student body of which half are American and the other half come from 40 different nationalities. And as someone who's thinking about studying international relations, that's really important because as you look at the world, you need to look at it from a various different perspectives. And as I mentioned, professional development is going to be a huge part of your education because we pride ourselves on the fact that after you graduate, we are working with you to help you place you in jobs and in different careers. And we take that role very, very seriously. So much so that all of our students are doing professional development courses, whether they're learning things like Python or beefing up their Excel skills or learning their elevator pitch or their CV or interviewing skills. But we also host things like career days. We have 30 different employers, many of them former alumni, that come to campus and share their experiences. Our students go on career treks where they're going to cities like London and Brussels and Geneva to meet with organizations, because what we want to do is to take an interdisciplinary approach to your education. You are going to learn from classes combined with political science and history and law and economics and business, because we're going to be taking students from all different backgrounds. So some of you maybe have a little bit more of a statistical background. Some of you are what I call the poets, the liberal arts students. But when you come to us, everybody's going to have a learning curve. And our goal is to give you a very well-rounded education that's going to be rooted in core courses as well as electives, but also give you those skill sets that you hit the ground running when it comes to your job. So what is Johns Hopkins? I think many of you may remember that terrible COVID map a few years back. Well, that was actually invented by our medical school. We're very well known in the medical field. It's actually our oldest department. By European standards, we're pretty young, but Johns Hopkins University was founded in 1876 on the East Coast of the United States, in the city of Baltimore, which is in the state of Maryland. So geographically speaking, that's about maybe a 40-minute train ride from Washington, D.C. We are currently today an institution of higher learning made up of about 27,000 students. And so we're known as that first research university for medical school, but we actually currently have 9 academic divisions. The school that I work at is called the School of Advanced International Studies. So the acronym is SAIS, and that's a little bit younger. It was founded in 1943, and you can imagine that was sort of during World War II. And as World War II is raging in Europe, 2 American scholars, I should say also statesmen, Paul Nietzsche and Christian Herder, they came together and they created a school of higher learning that brought together men and women to deal with the realities of the post-World War. And so that school was eventually incorporated into Johns Hopkins University. Where I work in Bologna, Italy, is where the European campus was founded. So you can imagine at the height of the Cold War in 1955, it was really important that there be a transatlantic dialogue between the nations rebuilding themselves after World War II. And so the school that I work at, and this is where the Masters of Arts in International Affairs program is offered, is part of a larger university community, as your dean mentioned, of 60,000 students. But our actual community is about 200. We're across the street from the oldest university in the world. We have an incredibly diverse faculty. So, not only do we have faculty from Israel, but we also have faculty from America, from France, from North Africa, from Africa, from Latin America. And I think that's really important when you think about the various different disciplines that you can study. Classes are focused on debate and discussion, and they're small, right? So an average class size is about 20. Our language classes are a little bit smaller. Our economics courses are a little bit larger. But overall, it's a small environment because, you come to class, we obviously prepared for what you're going to be discussing, and it's a really big part of your education. We also have a number of scholarships, and I'll spend a second talking about this. Yes, we are an American institution, and compared to globally, it is expensive. However, what I will say is that on average, particularly for students that apply to us through the cooperative degree, so in this case, students that are applying to us from TAU, we try to at least give you a tuition discount of about 50%. Now, obviously, that will vary based on family income. It will vary based on the merit of your application. In some cases, we've been able to subsidize and give larger scholarships. What I would say is that on your application, you can apply for funding. You can submit a funding request. I would also encourage you to look at external sources of funding. And on our website, we have a whole list of external sources of funding. And what a strategic student does is they try to see how much money they can get from SAIS. They also apply to external sources of funding. In some cases, they also work on campus. We have on-campus jobs. And by doing that, in most cases, they're able to bridge their gap. And so that's something I definitely would encourage you to do as well. So just a little bit about what our program is. So the Masters of Arts in International Affairs is normally a 2-year master's program. However, if you are currently enrolled in one of TAU's master's programs, so this would mean you're currently in either the MA in Conflict Resolution and Mediation, or in Cyber Politics and Government, or in Sustainable Development, or in Security and Diplomacy, assuming you're a student currently in this program, you would then apply to our MAIA program, MAIA, at SAIS Europe. And if accepted, we actually would recognize those credits that you've completed, meaning that you would only need to do 1 year with us to graduate. Now, what does that coursework look like for 1 year? Well, it's pretty simple. If you're not planning on writing a thesis, it would mean 4 classes in the fall, of which one has to be an intermediate economics course. and 4 classes in the spring, of which 1 has to be an intermediate course. So that does mean that you would need to have taken at least a Principles of Economics coursework before coming to us. And if you haven't taken Principles of Economics, don't worry. You can still apply. It just means that if you're admitted, you would need to fulfill that requirement. And one way that you can do that is either take the course somewhere else at another institution, or you can take our online coursework, which is offered in the spring. If you are admitted into our thesis program and you would apply in the fall semester, the required courses change a little bit. It's still 4 classes in the fall, of which 1 has to be economics at the intermediate level, 2 classes in the spring, of which 1 has to be economics, and then of course you would write your thesis. So the beauty of this program is you have complete flexibility to pick whatever course you want. So given that we have 60 courses to choose from, and I'm going to ask our current student and alumnus to talk a little bit about the classes that he took, this type of master's program really gives you a lot of flexibility. In addition to that only core requirement of economics, you will be taking a writing seminar. And then the language part is very important. So if you are a non-native English speaker, and you did not do your undergraduate studies in a country where English is the official language, you will need to submit a TOEFL or an IELTS. The TOEFL will have to be at least 100 and the IELTS at least a 7 during the application process. So what does that mean? If you are Israeli, even if you did your undergraduate studies in English, you would in Israel, you would still need to submit a TOEFL and IELTS, but that just means you're going to score really high on that exam, and it's going to be a data point that's going to be helping your application. So for anybody who's a non-native English speaker, you do have a language requirement, and it's just English. It means that when you get to campus, you have to do, as a formality, an English test, in addition to having submitted a TOEFL and IELTS. It's a formality. You would do it the first day you get here, and after that's completed, you then, for fun, can take any of the languages that you see here. It's not a requirement for you. You just have to pass English proficiency. Now, for those of you that are native English speakers, this is really important. Normally, the Maya program is a 2-year master's program. And if you had 2 years, you could start a language at 0 level and in 2 years meet proficiency. As you're only going to be with us for 1 year, you would then need to meet language proficiency in 1 year in one of the languages that we teach. So we teach Arabic, French, German, Italian, Portuguese, Russian, Spanish. We do teach Chinese, but it's sort of, it's not a proficiency language. So if you're an American or an English or an Australian that happens to be at TAU right now, it's really important that you have some language preparation in one of these languages, because you're going to have to reach language proficiency in 2 semesters. And if that's your case and you're not sure, feel free to send me an email and we can talk about the level of proficiency. So hopefully this slide is clear. I'm just going to have a quick look at the chat. Just to make sure there's some questions here. Does anyone who is a non-native English speaker graduated from a university in the United Kingdom? So if you went to the UK for your undergraduate, the UK is a country where English is the official language. So you don't have to submit a TOEFL or an IELTS for the application process, but you would still need to take our English exam when you come, because we have to have that for your foreign language. So that's a great question. Of course, if you went to the UK, that also counts as being exempt from submitting a TOEFL or an IELTS if you went there for at least 3 years. Okay, great. Okay, next slide. I see some questions here. Let me just make sure. Is it possible to apply in advance to the cooperative program? So you can apply to, if you're not enrolled in TAU and you're not enrolled in SAIS, you can apply to either. If you wanted to apply to both now, they're separate applications process. And if you were admitted into both, you just have to decide which program you want to begin first. So if you decided that you wanted to study at TAU, you would defer our admission for 1 year. You would go to TAU for the first year and then come to us for the second year. And I believe, Ayelet, it's the same process. They could defer your admission for a year if they wanted to come to us. Yeah, she's nodding. Great. Okay. So yeah, you can also apply if you're in a situation where you're not enrolled in either programs yet and you want to get a head start, you totally can apply to both at the same time. And then you would basically be deferring one for later. Now, this is a question. I see this question and I'm sad I have to answer no. Yeah, unfortunately, Hebrew currently is not considered one of our cooperative languages for language proficiency. We are going through a leadership transition at SAIS Europe, and I'm hoping within this leadership transition, that's one of the questions we can address. But currently, unfortunately, Hebrew is not considered, we don't teach Hebrew at SAIS Europe, so I'm sorry about that. But, we can talk about language proficiency in a little bit. Okay, so one of the things that I do want to just mention is that obviously a SAIS education gives you an opportunity to learn from the best, to become an expert, to build your network, and to advance your career. This is obviously a sampling of all the different professors that we have, but if you're planning on taking a course in history, you'd probably be taking it with Professor Gilbert. If you're interested in Professor Gilbert is British. If you're interested in transnational advocacy, you'd be taking a course with our New Zealand professor, Nina Hall, or our Russian professor, our Sergei Rishenko. Now, this is sort of the part of the presentation. I have a current alum, Peter Pessoff, and a current student, Daniel Suarez, who are joining us. And I'm going to ask each of them just to speak a little bit about their experiences, why they applied to SAIS, maybe talk about some of their favorite classes, and they're also going to be available to answer your questions. And so with that, maybe Peter, if you wouldn't mind, if you're still there, if you could share your camera and maybe be the first one to speak.
I think my camera is on. Can you see me?
Okay, yeah, we can see you great. So I'm going to give you the floor.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for putting up a picture of me where I still have hair and a stash, it seems like. Hi everyone, my name is Peter. I'm a graduate of the Tel Aviv University Conflict Resolution Mediation Program and a graduate of the cooperative degree with SAIS. I just finished, believe it or not, this picture was taken about a year ago. So a lot of changes happened in the meantime. I just graduated from SAIS, and now currently, on top of what you see from my uniform and everything, I am also a PhD student at Tel Aviv University and a director of one of the think tanks at the university as well, thanks to both of the programs that I did. And in terms of the experience, what I can tell you is that the degrees perfectly complement each other. The reason why I decided to go to SAIS after taking the master's at Tel Aviv University is because obviously SAIS is a world-renowned institution and it has the best of experts that you can possibly imagine. But furthermore, the degree at Tel Aviv, which you get, it's heavy with practical stuff, and it's heavy with conflict resolution theory. I wanted to go into something deeper and more specific, and my focus in my doctoral dissertation for most of the work that I've been doing has been security and issues of security. So thank you. So in terms of that, I got all of the classes that I needed to complement. My apologies, life on base can be crazy. All of the classes that I took at Tel Aviv University were based on conflict resolution, social psychology, and stuff like that. The classes that I went to for SAIS was to learn about war strategy, to learn about risk analysis, and not only did I learn how to use the theory, and I studied a lot of things from Clausewitz's war strategy and Sun Tzu, up until the modern methodologies on how to process risk analysis and some modeling. On top of that, I was able to take professional development courses, which heavily helped me develop a methodological toolset, which I will further implement into my PhD. And honestly, I was considering a PhD before going to SAIS. But after coming back to Tel Aviv University from SAIS, I now have everything laid out of exactly how and what I'm going to do in my PhD, thanks to the professors, all of which are always available to you at your disposal. And I don't know any other institution where you'll be able to find professors with such a level of intellect and with such experience that would be able to just sit down with you and talk about, I don't know, your research interests and whatnot. And they're constantly available at your disposal, and more than that, they're happy to initiate those discussions with you. And then another part that I wanted to touch on is life in Bologna, which was probably the best experience of my life. As much as I love Tel Aviv and I love being in Israel, living for a year, living in Italy is like a dream come true. You're able to travel all around Europe, all around Italy. There are no restrictions. The food's obviously amazing. The people that you meet go a long way. I'm still in touch with a lot of my fellow graduates. Actually, a couple of us are working on a little project, consultancy related, which is very nice because right after graduation, you're able to connect with people and still keep working and keep in touch. I don't remember hearing this, but one of the things that SAIS prides itself on is the network of alumni that which we have. And having been to all the alumni gatherings which happened in Bologna when I was there, it was amazing to see the people that graduated 30 years ago are still friends coming together every couple of years to visit, and they're more than that happy to include the new alumni and the new students into their circles and help them develop professionally. That's pretty much it, more or less, in terms of my experience. But if anyone has any questions, I'll be happy to address those.
Great. Thank you, Peter. And I realize you're calling us under challenging circumstances, so I really do appreciate your time. And I know that Peter, will you be able to be on towards the end also to field questions, or what's your time commitment?
If need be, I can, but it's preferable that I leave.
No worries, no worries. So with that, I'm going to actually ask Daniel Canosa. He's actually here in Bologna and currently enrolled at SAIS. Daniel, is your camera ready?
Yes. Hi, Daniela.
Hi, Daniel. Thank you so much for joining us. Could you share your current experiences as a student in Bologna and add to what maybe Peter said? Obviously, your perspective is different, but I'm sure it's complementary as well.
Yes, absolutely. Well, so it is actually my pleasure to be here. I'm very happy to see so many familiar faces. Peter, hope you're doing well. Corey Aguilet as well. I apologize in advance if there is a little bit of background noise. I'm at campus right now. And so, okay, that being said, I'll try to cover some of the things I consider very relevant for this. I was making some notes while you were talking. And if not, please just feel free to get in touch with Corey, ask for my email, or you can also connect with me on LinkedIn. I can answer any questions regarding the program or live at Bologna. So, well, first of all, as Daniela was mentioning, the university is very proud of having students of over, I think this year is more than 50 nationalities, counting the one of us that have double nationality. Which of course makes the atmosphere and classes. We will show. Okay. So it makes classes very interesting. There is a fusion of knowledges coming from every single part of the world. Debates, as Daniela was saying, classes are very small and they're debate focused. So that makes really like just everything way more interesting. Life in Bologna, as Peter was mentioning, it is a real dream. Living in Italy, living in Bologna. Bologna is it's a wonderful city, not just because of the food, but the people, the language, and the culture in general. And it is an entrance to the rest of Europe. Flying from here to any other countries. I was just this week in Albania. You get plane tickets for a very cheap price, and so the classes, the university focuses really, they make a great effort on us improving, of course, not just our academic knowledge, but they put a great emphasis also in stuff that is very practical for our lives and our professional careers. So some of the classes that they offer that I like pretty much are the skill courses. I've been taking quite a lot of them, actually. Most of them that have been offered, because they offer not just courses on like Excel, Python, but they also offer classes like public speaking. It's one of them. and so on. So apart from that as well, you have the option of taking one of the, I think, around 10 languages that are being offered at the university, and believe me, they have great professors here. It is a very great option how to improve the ones you already know, or also to start a new one you don't know. Majority of the people here, I believe, are taking Italian, also taking advantage of the possibility of practicing here with locals, which I think is a very great experience. So, well, I don't really have to talk much about like how professors at SAIS are very much qualified and have all the practical expertise as well, and how to orient us also in our future goals. That's something that I appreciate pretty much. And something warning that I got from Peter when I was applying, and I think is pretty valid to do it right now. It's even though this master is so rewarding, it really it's worth coming here, and I really mean it. It is also challenging. Be aware of you're gonna be having to do a lot, not just for classes, but life here is sometimes it can become overwhelming in terms of how much there is to do, not just for your classes, but at the same time. For example, in my case, I'm already applying for jobs, right? So you have to deal with all of this stuff at the same time, and you really want to take advantage of all the options that the university is offering for you, because it's constantly, there is seminars, there are conferences, there is invitations to have dinner with the professors. So it is a lot, but if you're ready to face like this kind of like good challenge, then I think this is really the space to actually put you, to test your capabilities. So yeah, thank you so much. If you have any questions, of course, would be very happy to answer them.
Great, thank you, Daniel. Awesome. And I have a few more bullet slides, and then I really want to then open this up to the students online, or the prospective students, I should say. And I know that Peter has a time constraints, but Daniel, hopefully, if you could hang on for a little bit, because I think it's great if they have some student questions to ask you. Okay, so we've heard this idea of professional development. I'm going to just touch upon it again because it may be new to some of you, but we actually have a director of career services, and that office is dedicated specifically to the students. And so when you arrive to campus, you're taking skills courses. Daniel, did you get a chance to take any skills classes?
Yes.
What did you take?
I took public speaking. I took Excel courses, taking evaluation and monitoring. So yeah.
Okay, great.
Many.
Peter's still with us, so I'm going to throw it over to him too. Were you able to take any professional development classes when you were with us?
Plenty, and all of them were very useful.
Okay, fantastic.
So I took a couple courses on Excel, a course on Stata, I believe a course on there was something related to project management, which I don't remember the exact name. Monitoring and evaluation, that was it. And I was also hoping to take a couple more because there were very interesting classes in programming, in Python, and in R, but unfortunately I had some overlaps with either some of my classes or some events. That being said, I do want to point out how available the professors and the research assistants and the teaching assistants of the professors are. I really wanted to learn R during my time at SAIS, and because of a research assistant of one of my professors for conflict in the cyberspace, I was able to put together a code which produced a very interesting piece of research. So yeah, even if you don't take the professional skills courses, you can still get your professional skills sharpened during your time at SAIS. With that in mind, I do have to say that I have to go, but I dropped my email in the chat. If anyone needs anything, I am available. So feel free to reach me.
Great, thanks, Peter. We appreciate it. And so in addition to this coaching and professional development courses and alumni mentoring, we do have career tracks. This fall, we hosted career tracks to London, political risk. We did career treks to Brussels, where our students ended up going to organizations such as NATO, European consultancies, European Parliament, Commission. I know that they've got career treks to Rome, where they're going to be going to the development organizations such as EFAD and FAO. So these are all things that obviously you would be available to you based on your area of interest. Professional skills courses, employer presentations, as well as career day. Obviously you want facts, right? So am I just, making this up? No, I mean, we have 95% of the students in the Maya program, so we were surveyed them 6 months after graduation, were employed or pursuing internships after graduation. And this slide in particular is a sample of all the different employers. And I think what you need to bear in mind is a degree in international relations doesn't necessarily mean you're going to work at the UN. As you can see here, we do have people that work in the government and departments of defense and various ministries and in politics, but half of our graduates end up actually in the private sector. Companies need people with your skill sets. They need people that understand how the world works, particularly as they're facing a world of instability. And so that's where our sort of graduates have that competitive edge. Alumni, and Peter is in a prime example, are a big part of this experience, and we want our graduates to talk and to meet alumni. We have over 70 alumni chapters around the world. When I was in Tel Aviv last year, I was hosted by the Tel Aviv alumni chapter. They're very social, and they also work in a wide variety of sectors. And so obviously you're not just a member of the SAIS alumni network, but you're a member of the Johns Hopkins. And I think that's important, because just because you're studying international relations doesn't mean that you can't connect with somebody from the business school, from the law school, from the School of Public Health. The world is becoming so intermingled, and health policy and conflict. I mean, this affects all different sectors. It's not isolated. And so these are great opportunities for alumni to learn from each other. Okay, we're getting to the end, and this is sort of as you think about your questions. Obviously, many people say, well, what do you look for in an applicant? Do I have what it takes? So my first word of advice is, if this program interests you, apply. Don't be scared. Don't be worried whether or not you're going to be getting accepted. I'm going to give you the tools right now to help you strengthen your application. But I want to just first state by saying that there's no fee to apply to SAIS, right? SAIS Europe has no application fee. So it's really your time. What do we look for? Well, there's no magic formula here. We really try to take an interdisciplinary approach. There are very few times that we find these unicorns that sort of are perfect in every way. And I don't believe there's such thing as a perfect person. I think that all experiences are valid. Some of you may have stronger transcripts. Others of you may have had stronger work experience. And for those of you that have done military service, that is considered a very valid and strong work experience for us. So I do encourage you to put that on your CV if that is your case. But internships are important. We want to see, obviously, that you have a clear understanding of why you're applying to this program. So we are going to look for some of your quantitative skills. And for the poets out there, don't worry. This is if you don't have any math or many econ or statistic classes in any of your undergraduate experiences, you're going to address that in your essay. You're going to say, I know I haven't taken econ. I know it's a prerequisite. If I'm admitted, I am going to put all my effort into doing well in economics. Daniel, did you have economics before you came to SAIS Europe?
Yes, I did.
You did. Okay. So Daniel was one of our examples that had econ. And obviously that meant that he took, did you take what, the intermediate macro and micro class with us, or taking intermediate micro?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Intermediate.
Right. So we do have, for those of you that are economists, you're not going to be in the classes with the poets. You're going to be taking upper level econ courses. And for those of you that have had a little bit of econ or are new to economics, you will be in classes with very supportive teaching assistants. And so this is a community that we work with everybody. Obviously, these are sort of the things that we're going to look for. We hope that you've read your essays, and we don't want to see silly spelling errors. We understand that some of you may be non-native English speakers, and you don't have to have a perfect essay, but we hope you've read it over. Maybe you've asked a friend to look it over. But a application is very straightforward. What I would actually encourage you to do after you attend this session, particularly if you're interested, is start an application. Just see what it looks like, right? So it has a number of different components. It's going to take you a few weeks to put this together. We're going to ask you for an updated copy of your CV. This really should not be longer than a page, max 2 pages. I am in my 40s and my CV of 20 years of work experience is 2 pages. Okay, so I don't need to see every Model UN conference you've ever been to, or, you know, what you're going to put here are the substantial work experiences. If you've had military experience, your degrees, I want to see some volunteering, your language abilities. That's really what we're looking to see a little bit of a thread, right? So if you write and you tell me in your essay that you're absolutely passionate about the environment, and I don't see any environment classes in your transcripts, and I don't see any clubs that have to do with the environment or any volunteering. So, you know, I'm trying to look for the thread here, right? We do ask you for 2 samples of your writing. These need to be about 600 words, and they're very personal. So it's not something that you can do in a chat GPT. You're going to have to write about yourself, right? Why you're applying to SAIS, why this is the right program for you, what are the professors that you want to study with, why does this cooperative degree excite you, where do you want to be in 5 years, stuff like that. And you're also going to write an essay about a challenge, something that you faced. Maybe it's personal, maybe it's professional, and how you overcame that. Again, not something that you can put in chat GPT. We did that for a reason. We want to see your transcripts. They can be from any country as long as they are in English. So if you don't have transcripts that are translated into English, we need to see an official translation. My Hebrew is not very fluent, but I know that TAU gives transcripts in English, so you don't have to worry about that. We do want to see 2 letters of recommendation, and this is probably the part that needs a little planning. I see that we have some faculty members online. Faculty are very busy. So if you have a faculty member in mind, my advice to you is to write an email to the faculty member, give them lots of time, remind them of who you are, what you got in their class, maybe even give them some bullet points about the papers that you wrote, some of your extracurricular activities. Help them write your letter. That is really good advice. Obviously, the ideal combination is letters, also professional letters and academic letters. You only need to submit 2. If you can submit up to 3, that's great, but you're only required to submit 2. Don't worry about the GRE or GMAT. These are a standardized tests that are offered that the US schools don't request. They're optional. What I really care about is your TOEFL and your IELTS. And in some cases, you can also submit a Cambridge Proficiency C2. So ideally, these need to be valid within the last 2 years. We can have a little bit of flexibility for TAU students, but I don't want to see a TOEFL that was done 5 years ago. I really want it within the ideally last 2 years or so. You have to have had at least a 100 on the TOEFL, and you can also do this at home if you don't have a recent one within the last 2 years or so, and at least or a 7 overall on the IELTS. Obviously, for those of you that are English native speakers, you need to reach language proficiency upon graduation for us, but that's afterwards. And then we do schedule an interview. Don't worry about the interview. The interview is about you. We're not going to ask you anything that you haven't put in your application. So if you're honest and truthful and you know why you're applying to SAIS, and hopefully you read the newspaper every day, you'll be fine with the interview. So with that, as we get to the end of my presentation, I put February 1st, like last year, for the deadline. So normally the deadline would be a little bit earlier, but I understand that it's been a challenging semester. I know that you started classes late. So ideally we need your full application by the 1st. If you don't have your fall transcripts by the time that you submit it, just submit your application anyway, and we could always follow up a few weeks later with your registrar's office, so don't worry about that. You applied by February 1st. Ideally, we would do the interview sometime in late February, and you would find out on March 7th if you've been admitted. And if you've been admitted on March 7th in a separate email, you would find out what your financial aid allocation is. So hopefully this is sort of where we get to the Q&A. We've addressed questions about careers, about the interdisciplinary learning, about the complementary education between TAU and SAIS Maya's program. You've heard from an alumnus, a current student. You've heard from me. So this is the part of the presentation where I really look forward to your questions. I see that people are raising their hand. That's great. Keep your hands. What I'll do is I'll call on the people that have raised their hands, and then I'll go to the questions in the Q&A. So the courageous person who raised his hand first, Boris Yusufov. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. If you want to speak, go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much. My question is there option to study in United States, or it's only in Italy?
So you're more than welcome to apply to our master's programs in the US. We have master's programs that are just offered in the US, but it's not part of our cooperative degree. So what does that mean? The MAIA program, the MAIA program, is a program that's only offered in Bologna, and it's a 2-year program. So if you were coming to us from TAU, you would only need to do a year with us to get the master's. If you are interested in just studying in the United States, we have programs. We have a 2-year MAIR program that's offered in the US. We have a program in intelligence that's offered, in sustainability. So there are lots of programs that are offered just in the United States, but that's sort of outside the scope of this conversation. I can put in the chat box the recruiting calendar and where we talk about these master's programs, and you're more than welcome to apply to them. It's just, it's a different application process, and you don't get upper standing coming from TAU.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Sure. I see Leo is the next courageous one. So Leo, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I have a couple of questions.
Sure,
First of
go
them,
for it.
Thank you. First of them being, what are the Johns Hopkins provided scholarship opportunities for international students who are non-US, non-Israeli citizens? That's one question. And in the off chance that, because some of us come from a specific age group that the life tends to be unstable, in the off chance of I cannot immediately attend after applying, is there a possibility of deferral of the admission?
Sure. Leo, are you currently enrolled in TAU?
Yes.
Okay. So if you were to apply now, and for whatever reason you couldn't come right away, you're more than welcome to defer. We allow deferral for 1 year. Okay. And this is, I'm answering this without looking at IELTS, but IELTS, we've had cases where we've had students that have graduated from your program, and a year or two later, they then apply to us. So they've been alumni for about a year or two, and that's fine, because the requirement is that if you want to take advantage of that upper standing, is just that you have the degree from TAU. So it's not that you have to come immediately, although that's the preferred way, because you've just come off of masters, you're sharp, you got your context, but we're also fine with you taking a year or two and then applying later. When you do ask for a deferral, you have to put down a deposit. So that is something just to be aware of. The deposit is especially if you're given funding, it's sort of the hold your space, but then it's applied towards your funding later. Now with the funding, we don't care what nationality you are. Right? It doesn't matter if you're American, non-American, not Israeli. You can be from Iceland for all we care about, right? What we look at is the strength of your application and your family need, right? So some of our scholarships, obviously, if you are incredibly wealthy and if you score very well, we don't want to penalize you if you're rich, but we can't justify also giving you a full tuition. So we would give you some sort of token merit fellowship. If you come from a situation, moderate income, and you score, decent, we try really hard, particularly for the students coming from TAU, to try to at least give you a 50% tuition. So what I would say is on the application, you're going to tell us what your gap is. We don't look at that during the admissions process. So the admission officials don't know who's asking for money. That's only looked at after you've been admitted, right? So what we have is we have a pot of money, if I can be brute and say that. We have a number of different scholarships. Sometimes scholarships are awarded because you tick certain boxes. Other times it's general money. It's instead of saying, general international money. And we see you, okay, this is from TAU, we try really, really hard. We're never going to be able to match 100% your gap, but we're going to try to get to it as close as we can. And what students do, and I just put this in the chat box, they try to see how much money they can get from us, but also do your homework. There's a whole list of external sources of funding that I've just put in the chat. And if you scroll all the way to the bottom of our page, there's like 100 external scholarships. We've done the homework for you. We've scoured the internet for hundreds of foundations that may be able to give you money. So look at those as well. So Leo, your hand is still raised. So I guess you have follow-up questions as well.
It's just a point of clarification, really. I am aware of the classical US admission systems and financial systems as well. So is the classical NEET blind financial aid type applies to all international students here? Is that the case?
I'm not sure. So if we evaluate your application and you're admitted, we then look
Yes.
at your financial situation. And we try, if you are at, you would have submitted to us what your gap is, right? You would have said, this is how much I have in savings. This is how much I could bring to the table. This is what I'm asking. And we try to work with you, right? I can't say that we're going to match you. I think in a lot of cases, there may be a little bit of a gap, but, we try, in most cases, we can get to at least a 50%. That's in most cases from applicants from TAU, we try. But we have scholarships that it doesn't matter what country you're from or what your background is, but we try to give you these tuition discounts.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, I see there's a question in the chat. Question to Daniel. By doing your degree in both universities, what are the pros and cons? What did you gain from that? What did you miss because of that? Oh, good question. Daniel, that one's for you.
Yeah, it is a really good question. I was reflecting a little bit about what I was going to answer. Well, to be honest, this is a question that I get very often. Something that still even my girlfriend asks me, like, why to be enrolled for the third time in a master's program. Well, sometimes it is a little bit challenging to answer, but I think it makes a lot of sense here at the university with Hopkins. It's has been like a really good experience, but I would say one of the reasons is, again, every time I go to a job interview nowadays, one of the first things that employers see on my CV is, okay, so this guy has his studies back home, then he was at Tel Aviv, then he was in Austria, then he was doing his internships in Portugal, blah, 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 blah. I think that's adding a lot of value, because nowadays what employers are looking is, and that's always greeting in all the job descriptions, is we're looking for people open-minded. We're looking for people that is ready to work with colleagues with diverse backgrounds. And I think already these experiences of studying and working overseas away from your hometown gives you already those kind of qualifications. Plus, of course, is adding normally on the way that you're learning different languages. So kind of like to answer the question, I think there is potential to gain basically everything, as much as you can, as much as you're ready to like challenge yourself, to obtain what you actually want and to gain from these experiences to put on your CV and so on, and very little to lose. I think something that people is worrying very often is like, okay, well, it's good, the academic background and learning more and more, but when is it that, you get to that moment when you're facing like the real world and you're getting a job? And that's also very important. And it is true, it is something very important and relevant for the CV. Now, again, it is really up to you. In my own case, I've been always studying, working parallel to my studies. So in a way, like, this hasn't been like missing from my CV. So again, if you want, it is always possible to be studying and working at the same time. I think I have colleagues here that have a very different approach, but yet they are, getting the experiences that they appreciate the most. Some of them are really putting their focus on the academic part, because many of them also want to be professors and so on. So it really depends what's your approach and what you're expecting to get in the future.
Great, thank you, Daniel. I know that we have 5 minutes here. Eden, I see your hand. Let me just quickly answer the questions in the chat, and then I'm going to throw it over to you. So we had a question about the language proficiency. Actually, we had a question about how to apply. So you apply online. So I've just put the link in the chat to the online portal, which you can go in, create an account. I've also put in the chat the application instructions that I talked about, but it goes into more detail for the Maya. So when you apply, particularly if you're looking to come to us from the TAU Cooperative Agreement, you are applying to the MAIA program at SAIS Europe, and there's going to be a drop-down menu that's going to ask, are you currently in a cooperative degree? And you're going to say yes. And then you're going to put TAU, so that we know that you are currently at TAU and you're applying to us. That's really, really important. I've also put in the chat, if you're curious about what the level of language proficiency is. Now, remember, the language proficiency exam For non-native English speakers, so Daniel, I'm assuming you had to take the English exam at the beginning of the year. It was fine, right? No one has to worry, you were good. And then for the non-native English speakers, you have 1 year to reach proficiency. And I've put in the chat, there's a whole section on our curriculum page. Every language has a different proficiency level. So you can imagine Spanish proficiency is a little bit higher than Arabic proficiency, right? Because you're dealing with very different languages and different alphabets. But that tells you the actual language level of that language, if that's your foreign language, that you would need to reach as an English native speaker by the time you finish your studies. And for regarding economics, we do offer an online economics course. I've also put that in the chat. You're not required to do our economics course. You can also do an other intro to macro, micro economics courses, but you would just need to check them with us. If you were to be admitted without having econ, that would be a requirement that you would need to fulfill before you come to us in September with a B- or higher equivalent on the US system. Okay, Aiden, the floor is yours.
Hi, so really quick, a few more concrete questions. Firstly,
Sure.
thank you so much for the presentation. I was wondering, what is the full cost of tuition? Are there dorms available? Is that preferred? And if so, what would be the cost for the year? And are there Zoom option classes or fully in person?
Sure. So I'm going to go from the last question first. We do have 2 classes that are offered out of all the 60 that I believe I think they're asynchronous. But everything, the basic expectation is it's in person. I mean, that's the education. You know, the only time a professor would Zoom, some of our professors are flying in from like Geneva and London. If for whatever reason their plane got delayed and they couldn't be there that day, they may Zoom in. Some professors, it's rare, might do a hybrid where 1 week they're in person and 1 week they're Zooming, but that's because they're flying in. But 95% is you're meeting with the faculty member in person. As far as the tuition costs, it's currently, don't freak out. I just want to preface this by saying, assuming the majority of you would get at least a 50% tuition discount, it would be 42,000 euros. So on average, students that have come to us from TAU have gotten a 50% tuition discount, so about 20,000 euros. We don't have dorms, but living in Bologna is very inexpensive compared to Paris or London or even Tel Aviv. So we actually have housing consultants that sort of starting over the summer, they work with students. So you make an appointment and many of our students live together. Daniel, do you room with anybody from SAIS?
Sorry, Daniela, could you
Do you
repeat
have
the
any
question?
roommates? What's your living situation, if I can ask, at SAIS?
Yes, I do. That would be actually a really good advice for like the ones that are coming here. It's good to get on time to Bologna. It's always better to get earlier on time than later on, because Bologna is a city. It's complicated to get sometimes housing, to find a proper accommodation. Sometimes it can be challenging. Well, I guess it also depends about your budget. I'm sharing an apartment not too far from the university. It's good price. I'm sharing an apartment with 3 other students at the university. Yes.
Great. Rents vary, I would say, you know, some people spend as little as 500, 600, 700 euros a month. You know, it's Southern Europe. So it's, you know, living, food. I mean, that's very cheap to eat well here as well. Aiden, did I miss one of your questions? Did I get them all?
Nope, that's all of them. Thank you so much.
Okay, great. So Nia, I see your hand is raised.
Yeah, hi. Very nice to see you again. I
Yeah.
remember we met last year in February. I was actually visiting Peter.
Yes,
and I
great
can confirm
memory.
everything that he said about campus and about the university was just an amazing experience.
Thank
I
you.
was actually about to ask you, I think you mentioned it, but I just wanted to clarify. So because of the situation in Israel, right, we started our year a bit later than expected. Does that affect the application process for those planning to do TAU-SAIS degree? Is there a change in the deadline?
Right. So Ayla, when are the master's programs at TAU?
Well, actually, thanks for the question. It's very important. We did start late, but only a week late. So the semester is going to end in January as planned. The spring semester and summer semester are going on as planned, and you're going to be able to come to SAIS if you want to. Like Daniela says, if you don't have all your grades by the time you apply, Daniela knows that you come from TAU, you can submit it later, everything is fine.
Yeah, we would still have your undergraduate transcripts, right? And that's
Yes,
important. So that's, you know, and we know that, but that's also where the letters of recommendation are going to be really important. So, you know, if we don't have your transcripts and let's say even we didn't get them by the end of, I mean, by mid-February, hopefully we'll have them. But if you have a professor that you've gotten close with this semester at TAU, we're going to really read those. And if the professor says this student is serious, I don't have the final grades yet, but, you know, Sonia is gung-ho and she participates in class. Those are things that we're going to really give a lot of weight to. Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, I think there's maybe one more question. Okay, I think we're good. So, oh, Boris has a question. All right, Boris, last question is yours.
Oh, yes, thank you very much. My question is, at the end of the program, a person can get European diploma, or it's
No,
United
it's
States
it's
diploma?
not a European diploma. It's a Johns Hopkins University degree certified by the Maryland Board of Education in the United States.
So it's United States diploma. Cool.
A US 100% certified by the Maryland Commission for Higher Education.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, we are in Europe and we do have a little bit of a European way of doing things. We like our coffee breaks and we do have long dinners and enjoy our meals, but you are getting an American education. Okay. So with that,
I just have to reassure everybody that we're going to have the recording of this session on our website, on my school's website, and you have my email and Daniela's email. Any questions can be asked. If you remember a very important question 10 minutes from now, don't worry, it's okay.
No, and I am just putting also, I'm going to put you the general email here too, because I just want to make sure that my assistant gets it. You look, this is for some of you, it's a little bit new. It's curious. What I would say is this is a great opportunity. We actually also have an online, I would say what we call a virtual open day, right? So this is another opportunity for you to get to know us. It's on December 11th. I'm also going to put that in the chat. The time is listed as it's 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 p.m. Central. So I think that's 4 p.m. Israeli time because you guys are an hour after us. Anyway, this is a 3-hour session that you can pop in, pop out. We're going to have professors talk. We're going to have students talk. We're going to have career people talk. But this is just to give you more information. And I would say is if I've piqued your interest today, apply. You have nothing to lose. And, you know, it's a conversation. It's an opportunity because the greatness of this cooperative degree is you save 1 year of tuition. Instead of spending $80,000, you only spend $40,000 and you're most likely going to get a 50% tuition discount. So you're going to get an American degree at 1/4 of the price at half the time. So I don't know. I think those are pretty good statistics. But with that, Daniel, is there any parting words of advice that you want to give the applicants before we close today?
I think what you say is the best advice is just apply and then decide, depending on whether you get accepted or not, but I'm very sure you're going to get accepted. And then, yeah, good luck in your applications. If you have any questions, feel free to reach me out.
Great. And Ayla, thank you so much for your time. And I look forward to
coming.
Yeah.
I hope so. I really, really hope that next year you can be able to come in person again.
I hope so too.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Alrighty. Have a beautiful day. Bye, everybody. Ciao.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Yeah.